So for me, everything started by sneaking into my brother's band practice. They used to have a Spanish rock band back in the day, and I was really into baseball. My brothers realized that I had a talent. I had rhythm, I have the groove. Right away, they suggested for me to take lessons with the most popular drummer in town at the time, which was Pablito Drum, Pablo Peña. This guy introduced me to a whole different world. I joined my brother band after a while. They decided to keep me as their drummer. While that was happening, I didn't have a drum set at the time, so what I had to do was go into the local church and play their drum set. That was happening, I was 13, that's late 90s. Until I turned 15, and that's when my mom realized that I was serious about the instrument, and she was like, okay, I'm gonna buy you a drum set. She got me a Yamaha Stage Custom. I started playing in this top 40 band in the Dominican Republic because my mom was really good friends with some of the members. These were a little older guys, more experienced, and here it is, this 15-year-old kid and his brother trying to get experience playing drums. So I started playing there in that band with Victor Maldo and Eddie Tragabala and those guys, playing a lot of merengue, bachata, salsa, Spanish rock, and stuff like that. That was our first experience playing gigs and getting paid for it. So one of the projects that I think made me think outside the box when it comes to music and art in general was called Ébano Rock Project. This guy was from the same town I was born and raised, but he lived in Santo Domingo with Gerardo, el Cuervo Mercedes. He is an actor, he's a poet, and he found us, these kids, playing rock and roll and doing all this stuff, and he came up with the idea of doing theater, including a live band. So for us, it was just like, what's going on? It was him pretty much reading poetry, his poetry, and asking us to create based on what he was saying. Pretty much taught us how to make it happen with whatever resources we had. And it really worked. It really taught me a huge lesson when it comes to playing shows, playing live shows and stuff like that. 4 years later, after I was taking lessons with Pablo Peña, I started teaching at the same school that I was learning. So this happened in a place called Rancho Emilia. After my school was done at around 2 p.m., I would walk a few miles to this place to go practice every single day for 5, 6, 7 hours. And this went on for years. So I was teaching there and studying at the same time. And I also got a job at El Hogar de la Armonía, which helped me learn a lot from like all kinds of students from 5 years old to 14, 15 years old. As I was taking lessons with Pablo in Santiago, I met these guys who were looking for a metal drummer. So I was really, really into metal back then. I've always been into metal. And that's when I met Julio, Cesar, and Fernando, and we started what today is called Altus Morte. So in this band, we started writing our own music. Since I was studying, I was, putting everything I learned into these songs, and it was like really technical for us at the time. We were really into the progressive metal stuff, so we started experimenting with our influence at the time with Pantera, Metallica, Dream Theater, and all that stuff. So we recorded our first album in 2002. That opened up like a whole new era in the Dominican Republic in the metal scene, because for us being in the north of the country, there was not much happening. Metal has never been a popular thing in the Dominican Republic. So we restarted that movement and started playing a lot of gigs. Obviously, the metal thing in the Dominican Republic had to come to an end. But we were in the middle of recording our second album because I was leaving In 2005, I decided to move to Kansas City to get my associate's degree in audio production in Kansas City, and whole new thing started. So I was introduced to like jazz and like the whole history of pretty much how the drum set came along, and like the ragtime and big band and all this stuff. So in Kansas City, I started playing with a band called And So It Was Written with Stephen Mann and Matt Bucati and all those guys. So that band didn't work, and we started a new project called Hesterprint. Was the one band that I toured with. In the Dominican Republic, I always dreamed of like, oh man, what does it feel like to be on tour, like Pantera and Metallica and all those guys going crazy and partying and doing all this fun stuff, playing your favorite music. So with Hesterprint, I did all that. Our first tour, we went all the way up to Oregon and Seattle and all that stuff. Then we toured again and we went to the other side, all the way up to Maine. You know, it was a lot of fun, but it was also a lot of struggle. Because it's not just fun and games. There's a lot of, you know, financial situations. And I mean, we were in our early 20s, so it was a lot of fun. The Hesterprint thing was done by then in 2010. So I went back to the Dominican Republic and, you know, kept playing with all this project that I had left behind. But the main one at the time was El Trio. This band was a fusion rock band, still is. But this band kind of got me in touch with my roots, with my Afro-Dominican rhythms, which I hadn't explored at all. So with El Trio, I did that, and it was really challenging because since I was living abroad, El Trio was composing a bunch of complicated music, and every time I went back to the Dominican Republic, this guy would handed me like all this sheet, drum charts and stuff that I had to record on the spot, almost like first sight. We got into the studio and we just kicked it really hard and recorded 2 albums, not right away, but with some gap in between. As I was working with other bands, still with Altus Morten, still with bands that I had joined from Santo Domingo, like Voces en el Plasma, which was like a heavy rock band, and then Archaeos, which was a death metal band. While all this stuff was happening, I was in my little town in Moca, and I had to come up with an idea to make more money playing music. So I started this kind of like reggae rock band called La Tregua. So this was a great experience because it was a genre that's like super different from everything I've done before, because it was like super basic and just, you know, very Caribbean influenced. So this was what got me into reggae. So we gigged with that band for 2 years until I decided to come to Houston and finish my bachelor's degree in audio. When I moved to Houston, I didn't play drums for like a year and a half because I was just focused in school, and that's when everything went kind of south with playing drums because I didn't have the time to do it. I was a full-time student. It was nearly impossible for me to play because I didn't have the space. I didn't have an instrument. That was hard. It took a lot to come back and, you know, fall in love with it again, because I kind of went down into that rabbit hole of like, oh, I haven't, you know, practiced for that long, and now my chops and all this and that. So, and I don't know nobody here, so what am I gonna do and all this stuff. So it was like, it was on me, but it was, sometimes I guess musicians, we get into this mental block. It's a little hard to get out of it sometimes. Sometimes you don't see the light, or you don't see an exit. Or at least that's what you tell yourself at the moment. And I wasn't, you know, making any money to buy or afford it at the time. I had to call my brother in Kansas City because I left everything behind. So my brother drove to Houston just to bring me the drum set and everything I needed to start playing music. And I started reaching out to some friends that I had here that I didn't know at the time that they were living in the city, some friends from back home in the Dominican Republic. So we started getting together and we got a rehearsal space, and you know, everything was back to great again. After a while, I kind of wanted to still do the reggae thing. So I met this band from Houston called Indigenous. My goal was to have at least an album where I was, you know, recording roots reggae. Now what I'm doing is play more original music. So I'm on all these 2 different projects where I'm playing Spanish rock and just rock in general. What makes me unique as a drummer? I believe we all have our own sound. I could be playing my drum set right now, and if you were a drummer and sat on my set, you would sound completely different. So it's really important to appreciate and understand that we all have like our own voice. There's so much we can learn out there. And I've been blessed to have experienced all these genres, and I've played with all these amazing musicians. It's so important because to me, when people say that music is the universal language, it means that we don't have to speak the same language because music makes that for us.